Welcome back. Well, Bill and Hillary Clinton agreed to sit for a transcribed, filmed deposition in the House Oversight Committee's Jeffrey Epstein investigation after lawmakers moved toward holding them in criminal contempt of Congress for not answering the initial outreach. Bill Clinton's deputy chief of staff confirming both Clintons will testify in a public hearing, and he's criticizing the committee for negotiating, quote, in bad faith. Now, Hillary Clinton just posted on X earlier this morning this. She says, for 6 months, we engaged Republicans on the Oversight Committee in good faith. We told them what we know under oath. They ignored all of it. They moved the goalposts and turned accountability into an exercise in distraction. So let's stop the games, writes Hillary. If you want this fight, James Comer, let's have it in public. You love to talk about transparency. There's nothing more transparent than a public hearing. Cameras on. We will be there. Joining me now is Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. He is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee and a member of the Oversight Committee. Mr. Chairman, great to see you. First off, let me get your response to what Hillary Clinton is saying to you and James Comer.
Well, I mean, look, it's up to Chairman Comer, and I'll support whatever Jamie wants to do. I think he's handled this exactly right. He didn't change the goal, move the goalpost, move anything. He just said, come on in for the deposition, and they're coming in now. If they want to do it public, I mean, that didn't work out so well for Jack Smith. And frankly, why not do both? That's how we handled Jack Smith in the Judiciary Committee. We brought him in a closed-door session, and then we did a public hearing. And I think most people who saw that felt that it wasn't that great for Jack Smith, and we showed just how political he was. So I support whatever Chairman Comer wants to do in this situation.
So when is the hearing, Congressman?
Well, the deposition for, I think, Secretary Clinton is the 26th and President Clinton is the 27th of this month, or it could be vice versa. But I think those are the two dates. I think they're back-to-back dates coming up later this month.
Well, I mean, we haven't heard from Hillary Clinton in a long time in this kind of fashion. I don't think she's ever been questioned about her role in the Russia collusion story either.
Well, that's funny you bring that up, because that's the first thing that jumps to my mind. I would like to ask her about the dossier. The Clinton campaign hired the law firm who hired Fusion GPS, who hired a foreigner, Christopher Steele, to put together this fake document that the Comey FBI used as the basis to go get a warrant to spy on President Trump's campaign. Probably nothing like that's ever happened in American history. We know all that's true. I think there's a lot of questions there. We'll see if we can get into some of that. So, yeah, I think there's lots of things we'd like to ask her. I had a chance to question her in an open hearing. Oh, it's probably been almost 10 years ago now, when the Benghazi Select Committee and her role in all the terrible stuff that happened, tragic happened, where Americans lost their lives there in Libya as a result of us not sending help and a whole host of things. So we'll see how it goes.
Right. Well, that's when she said, well, it just doesn't, what does it matter anymore, right? Look, I'd like to know if you would be able to do that, because this is a hearing specifically about Jeffrey Epstein, but you think you could actually get into a couple of questions about why she took the nation on a wild goose chase, tried to take down her political enemy by making up a story that he colluded with Russia? Yeah. You think you can get into that?
We can try. You know, who knows what she'll say or what her counsel will say in a deposition format. They'll probably push back, I assume, but we can try.
All right. Let me get your take on your hearing at the Judiciary. You held a hearing on foreign censorship yesterday, as a new report alleges that the European Commission has orchestrated a decade-long campaign to censor political speech globally, including on American soil. Here's a bit of that yesterday. Watch.
A year ago, this committee started issuing subpoenas to tech companies, big and small. We asked them to give us your communications with foreign officials regarding censorship. The production started rolling in. The European Commission successfully pressured social media companies to change their global content moderation rules, directly harming the speech of Americans in the United States. This hearing is not about whether European governments can censor their citizens. They do it. It's wrong. We know that. But this hearing's about, we disagree with that, but this hearing's about whether American speech in the United States is being silenced by regulators across the pond in Brussels. And the truth is, that's happening.
Congressman, how deep does this go? Tell us more.
Well, when you have global content moderation, by definition it's global, so it impacts Americans. And there's, there's also the fines that are levied. I mean, we know there's 120 million reasons why this is important. Just ask Elon Musk, just ask X, because that's the fine that was levied against them by the Europeans. So one of our witnesses was Graham Linehan, who is an Irish citizen, lives in the United States, tweets while he's in Phoenix, Arizona, gets on a plane, flies to the UK, and he gets arrested for a tweet. I mean, holy, that could have been an American, frankly. So this is our concern, how this is going to impact our First Amendment liberties, our free speech right. And frankly, Maria, we talked about this in the past, but this was the same thing the Biden administration was doing. Third day of the Biden administration, there's an email from the White House to Twitter saying, take down this tweet ASAP. And the tweet was all true, and it was by RFK Jr., who, frankly, at the time was a Democrat candidate for president. So they're censoring their opponent for president, so they go after specific tweets. Now it's broader. They're going after policies which will have the same impact. It will limit what kind of speech is allowed on these platforms. And so we have to remember the public square in the modern world is social media. And if you're going to limit it under whatever pretext you use, it's always about limiting political speech. And that's our concern, because now it's impacting Americans. And these are people that we don't get a chance to elect. It's being done by the European Union or being done in the United Kingdom.
Well, I mean, that's right. And I feel like the Biden administration set the tone for the rest of the world, because during that 4 years under Joe Biden, God forbid you said anything that you were critical of the vaccines. God forbid you said anything about COVID and where it came from, which actually was the truth that we were trying to pursue. Or if you said anything about the 2020 election, you were canceled and your posts were destroyed. How many people were working with social media throughout government to actually cancel American citizens?
Yeah, there was all kinds of these meetings taking place with the FBI and other organizations in the run-up to the 2020 election, and then, of course, during COVID. But remember, Maria, it was even worse, because the Biden administration actually set up in the Department of Homeland Security the Disinformation Governance Board.
That's right.
Where a bunch of bureaucrats were going to tell us, as Americans with our First Amendment liberties, were going to tell us what we could tweet, what we could post, what we could say, what we could read. It was so Orwellian, it was crazy. That's what they did. And but for a bunch of us speaking out, folks like you covering it, that still might be going on. Well, it wouldn't be going on in the Trump administration, but they might have done that the entire Biden administration, but we got it stopped. So that's where this leads. And you're exactly right. Typically, the biggest purveyor of misinformation is not the people, it's the government. Just go back and look at everything they told us about COVID, turned out to be wrong.
That's right. Real quick before you go, Congressman, what are you expecting with this fight over Department of Homeland Security funding? Do you think that there's actually a chance of another partial government shutdown when the deadline comes on February 13th?
I mean, that's a question for the Democrats. They're the ones who shut the government down last fall for 43 days. They're the ones who did it over the weekend. Here's the big issue is you have to stop this idea that when ICE knows that there's a bad guy in a local jail, local prison, and they send the detainer saying, oh, if you're going to release this individual, let us know, and they release him anyway. That has to change, because that creates this environment where tragic things happen like we saw in Minneapolis. You have to change that. In the state of New York, 7,000 criminals, people in jail for some crime, also illegal migrants, were released in 1 year. That is ridiculous. That's what this sanctuary jurisdiction policy of the left means. That has to change if you're going to stop bad guys getting out on the street and actually deal with illegal migrants who've done bad things in a way that protects law enforcement, protects the public, and frankly protects the safety of the migrant too. Instead of arresting them on the street, you can do it at the jail.
All right, we'll be watching all of that. Good to see you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. Stay with us. We'll be right back.